Hey Taha, it's very nice to see you here. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Sonia, for having me. It's my pleasure.
So you've been working with us for quite some time now, and you are the person who actually helped us get to a point and then earn our SOC 2 certification.
Mhm.
So you are the person who represented us, who helped us bring everything together and make sure that we are actually compliant. And I just wanted to have this conversation now with you so you can unpack a little bit the process for our audience, because it's data security is important. It's number one thing when it comes to the businesses we work with. So for all the people who don't know that, NAIF is a SaaS B2B company. So we provide services to other businesses. We help them improve their processes and streamline their workflows. But in order for us to be able to do that, we have to be able to access their data and really analyze that data. And the question of security of data and compliance is always like the first thing that pops up. So that's actually the reason why we started working together. And I think it's been a year, maybe even more than a year, right?
It's been a little bit more than a year now. Yeah.
Yes. So tell me more about what you do and tell me more about your business and how you help your customers.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Sonia, again for having me. So my name is Taha. I have founded Soter Advisory, a small boutique cybersecurity and privacy compliance consulting firm. And we work mainly with small and medium-sized businesses and startups that have started to grow, started to scale, and who are facing a lot of questions from their customers and prospective customers about the way they handle security and whether or not they have any kind of security certification or any kind of security program in place. And so we help them identify their key risk areas, put in place a security program, and follow up with them up to the audit itself and the issuance of the security audit report.
So tell me more about SOC 2. What is it? Why is that so important? And why do companies like ours, like B2B companies, really need that certification?
Yeah, that's a great question. So why SOC 2, right? So SOC stands for Service Organization Control. It is a framework developed by the American AICPA, which is the American Institute for Certified Public Accountants. It's an attestation report, not a certification. And the objective is to assess the controls that the organization has to protect the client data. So SOC 2 fits particularly well for companies that are in the technology field, that are cloud-based, SaaS-based services. And it covers 5 TSCs, trust service criteria: security, confidentiality, availability, processing integrity, and privacy. So there are 5 of them. However, the only one that's really, really important and mandatory is security. It is the one that NAIF went for. SOC 2 has 2 different types that you might have heard about, type 1 and type 2. Without getting into too many technicalities, you should look at type 1 as a photograph at a point in time, whether controls and security is designed effectively and implemented at a point in time. And type 2 is the same assessment, but instead of being a point in time, it's like a video. The auditor is going to check whether these security controls are working over a period of time, which can be from 3 months to a full year.
This is so interesting. So it's like type 1 really is, can you prove that you actually have the security measures in place? And type 2 is really like, are you sticking to them over time?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. That's why type 2 is more of a challenge, because it's a thing to design and implement controls, but it's another thing to educate people and make them follow the processes over a period of time, which is why type 2 is the stronger of the two. But both of them show a lot of commitment to data security, and both of them definitely give a lot of assurance to customers about how serious an organization is in protecting client data.
Yes, I know what you mean. I mean, we've been through the process of actually getting that certification, and I'm aware of all the details around this, and it took some time. We had the team involved, we had our IT guys to actually help review all the details around how our environment is set up. And it was really a collaborative process. And may I ask you to summarize the whole thing for our audience? Can you walk us through the actual process of certification, of being pursuing the SOC 2 certification? What does this look like?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, let's go through the process. So usually we should probably start with an initial assessment, right? So the journey begins with an assessment of our current security practices against SOC 2 requirements. And this helps us identify any gaps that need to be addressed, right? After that, we move to the gap analysis. Once we've identified our gaps, we conduct an analysis to understand what are the changes, what are the improvements, what are the technical implementations that are needed in order to meet the requirements of SOC 2. And then there is the third step, which is the biggest one, the implementation and remediation phase. And this is where we work across the organization, not just with IT, but this is an effort that involves everyone from HR, marketing, sales, to IT, up to the board of directors, if there is one. So it involves implementing the actual necessary changes to address the gaps that we have identified. And this could mean designing new policies, for example, putting in place new security measures around a whole lot of different security domains like access control, change management, backup management, and even sometimes changing some operational practices, changing the ways things are done within an organization. Once that is done, we are almost ready for the audit. Before the official audit, it's always helpful to take a step back and conduct a sort of readiness assessment to ensure that everything is in place, check all the last details and controls. It's like a dry run to catch any last-minute issue that could arise. And then there's the audit itself, where an independent third party will conduct the SOC 2 audit itself. They will review our policies, they will review the procedures, they will review the controls to ensure that they meet the requirements of SOC 2. Now, the auditors who perform the audit for SOC 2, they don't have to be certified public accountants themselves. However, the person who signs the audit report always is a CPA. And this whole process can take between 2 months to 6 to 8 months, depending on the complexity of the organization, depending on the challenges faced when there is a new technical implementation that needs to be performed. Sometimes it takes time to adapt and change some of the configurations on the cloud services. So when going for a SOC 2 program, one has to keep in mind that it is a long-term commitment. There are going to be a lot of months of implementation, and then hopefully many years where people have to abide by the newly designed controls and policies.
So you mentioned the auditors. Essentially, we have you who actually helped us prepare for the certification. We have the auditors who are making sure that everything is in place and they issue the certificate. But there is also another component that we have in the whole picture, which is DRATA.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What's their role and how the whole picture comes together?
Yeah, so let's take a step back. How did we do SOC 2 audits in the past? So when I was an EY auditor for SOC 2 a long time ago, we didn't have any compliance automation platforms like DRATA. So how did it go? We used to go to the client's offices and stay there for weeks on end, holding interviews, taking a look at each policy, asking clients for dozens and hundreds of screenshots for every little configuration and every little change in order to be able to do our auditor job, right? The advantage that we have now with compliance automation platforms like Drata is that it connects automatically to all of our cloud service providers, like Google Workspace, like AWS, like GitHub, etc. And it pulls through APIs all the information that is going to be needed by the auditor in order to complete his work. So this is a massive saving in time and resources internally, because we don't have to deal with auditors that much. A lot of the elements that auditors traditionally ask for are provided directly through the Drata platform. So we keep the interaction to a minimum, not because we don't like auditors, but because it makes things easier for them and for us. So it leaves us the time to focus on the really important stuff, or the important questions that may stay in the sidelines towards the end of the audit. So going through Drata, we've probably saved ourselves, I would say, at least 6 months worth of work just this year in completing the type 1 audit. And for type 2, it's even worse. When we are going to go for our type 2, having used Drata, it's going to make us save a really consequent amount of time.
Yeah, it's because you say the type 2 is the most important part of the certification, and having Drata in place actually makes everything super easy. Because I know that for our company, for example, each and every person, like each employee, has their Drata agent installed on their computers. So we can constantly monitor and make sure that all the requirements are really met and the systems are up to date and we're compliant with the latest changes and follow the latest practices. And then we also have our trust center in Drata, which has, which in my mind, in my vision, it's like a short link for any business that requires a security assessment of NAIF. It makes things so easy because you have like your certificate there, you have your penetration test report in there, you have all the policies that the business follow in there. And it is so easy to actually share and maintain that information that makes it really smooth. The whole process is really smooth. And as you mentioned, it's a time-consuming thing to really like go through the entire process. I feel that having Drata in place is really a big win from all the perspectives that you can look into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, the Trust Center is a very useful feature. It can show clients a live picture of how our controls are operating. They would have a full list of all our controls and their status. They would have access to all of our policies and procedures, and even the SOC 2 reports themselves. So yeah, you have to look at it as a central starting point for clients who want to know about how we manage security down at NAIF.
So how does SOC 2 certificate provide assurance to our clients? How can our potential customers actually think about our commitment to security by looking into that certificate?
Yeah, so more broadly, why would any company go for SOC 2, right? And how would it help with convincing clients that they have their security in line? There are a lot of reasons. So SOC 2, first of all, provides a structured framework for managing customer data. It forces you to ask yourselves questions about the way data is handled within our environment. It builds trust with clients and potential customers because you're able to demonstrate that you have met the stringent requirements of SOC 2. It signals to them that you take their data security seriously. SOC 2 is basically the answer to the question that you have from customers saying, hey, I like your products, but what kind of evidence can you give me about the security of the data that I'm going to entrust you with, right? And SOC 2 basically is the answer saying, hey, we have a lot of security measures in place. Here is a full report detailing each and every one of these security controls. And we've also had an independent third party certified by the AICPA taking a deep look into each and every one of these controls and making sure that whatever is written in the report is actually implemented in reality. And today, in this data-driven world, there is little chance any SaaS-based company can do business with serious clients if they cannot demonstrate in one way or another how they handle security. It's one of the first questions that is going to come when discussing a product or an application with a prospective customer. You can have an application with the best features in the world, but if you cannot demonstrate that using the application is not going to put your data in danger, that the data is not going to find itself in the public internet one day, then it's a bit of a lost cause, right?
So I totally agree. I know for sure that was the first question for us anyway, for all of the people who are interested in using our platform. So what would be your advice? What advice would you give to other small businesses when it comes to SOC 2? If they're considering going for SOC 2 certification, are there any best practices that you can share?
So on the top of my mind, what would be to start as early as possible. It's always harder to implement security when the application is already complex and the infrastructure and the environment around the application is complex, when there are a lot of employees already in the organization. So the earlier you start, the earlier you put that security awareness culture within the organization. And as you know, the culture you have in the company in the beginning is most likely the culture that is going to stay over the longer run, right? So start as early as you can. Try to have security embedded in the design of your application from the get-go. We have now concepts of security by design and privacy by design. And the second one would be, if you go for SOC 2, to try to involve everyone within the organization, the whole teams, not just IT. So SOC 2 is not just an IT question. The lists of controls in SOC 2 goes beyond IT. It touches HR, it touches finance, it touches the way marketing handles customer data as well. So everyone within the organization should be aware of their roles and responsibilities when it comes to protecting customer data. And yeah, the last one would be to start with a gap assessment to know where you are, so you can have a good idea of where you want to be and the kind of resources in terms of time and budget that you should put in place in order to reach your objective. And lastly, I think it's better to surround yourselves by experienced consultants who have experience in implementing SOC 2 and auditing SOC 2. That makes you lose less time over trivial issues. And of course, using an automation platform like Drata or others is definitely something that will make the whole process way less painful than it should be.
Such a great advice. So now that we are SOC 2 certified, what are the plans? What are the next steps for us so that we continuously improve our security measures?
So that's where the hardest part of the job is going to start, right? Now that we have all of our security measures in place, they've been audited independently, and we've passed all of them successfully. Now we have to make sure that we abide by them over the longer run. We have our teams, of course, that have gone through security awareness training, so they know their roles and responsibilities. We have our automation platform in place. Anytime there is some periodic task that needs to be performed in order to reach the requirements of the standards, we have automated reminders. So we just have to make sure that we stay on top of things, that we keep an eye on our security compliance posture. And of course, there's also an element of continual improvement also in SOC 2. So the controls we have put in place, they don't have to stay the same as they are. They can change and evolve as our application is evolving and our environment is developing and scaling.
Taha, thank you so much. This has been so helpful for all of the people out there who are interested in SOC 2 certification. And I think the most important thing that I'll take away from this conversation is that start from the very beginning with SOC 2 in mind. Start with it from the very beginning when you're just getting started with your product development. And if you're running a SaaS business altogether, don't delay, just go ahead and make sure that you take that into consideration. And if you haven't done this so far, today is the best day to do that. So go ahead and really start that. And I think, Taha, you've been a great help. I can't imagine going through the whole process without you. You've been supporting us from the very beginning, and you proved to be like a top-notch expert out there. So I would like to personally thank you of your contribution of everything that we've managed to achieve. And I'm looking forward to seeing how much more we can actually do from here.
Thank you, Sonia, for your kind words. Yeah, looking forward to type 2.